Begins like this, that integral mission means discerning and proclaiming and living out the biblical truth that the gospel is God's good news through the cross and resurrection of Jesus Christ. That's central for individual persons, because they're sinners, and for society and for creation, because all three are broken and suffering because of sin, as the Bible tells us. And all three are included in the redeeming love and mission of God. And therefore all three must be part of the comprehensive mission of God's people. Well, let's go around those three focal points then that we had a moment ago, of building the church, serving society, caring for creation. But I'm only going to look at the first this evening, building the church through evangelism and teaching. And then tomorrow evening we'll think in line to that ethical dimension that was advertised in the program, of what it means to be involved in issues of love and justice and caring for creation. In other words, social engagement as a dimension of integral mission in obedience to the Great Commission, as I will hope to show, at least certainly by implication. So then, building the church. Now at this point I want to emphasize that I'm putting evangelism front and center here for a very good reason, which is that I've come across quite often views of so-called holistic mission which I think are defective and which I'd want to correct, particularly if any might think that I share anything of what I put on the screen. To me, integral mission or a holistic mission means integrating everything around the centrality of the gospel. There are some who have used the word holistic mission to mean almost everything else that a church might do except evangelism. In other words, it's all the other stuff. Holistic mission is a kind of bag word into which you can drop development, medical work, community health work, advocacy, political involvement, poverty relief, all that. That's all holistic mission. Even a movement like Lausanne, that seems to me at one point somewhat fell into that danger. I went to the Lausanne Forum, which was held in Pattaya, Thailand in 2004, some years before the Great Cape Town Convention. And when I got there, I discovered that they had 31 special interest groups, SIGs, that's what they were called, special interest groups, 31 of them. And one of them was holistic mission. And I thought to myself, that's not it. Holistic mission is supposed to be the whole thing, not just one special interest group. So when I went to that group, I found, as I expected, as I knew, because I knew most of the people who were in it, that that was the place where Lausanne had put everybody that was in all those other kind of ministries that were not directly evangelistic. And I thought to myself, that's not holistic mission. Social action without evangelism is no more holistic than evangelism without social action. So holistic mission is not just everything except evangelism. But the other wrong way of looking at this, I think, is to say that holistic mission is just everything and anything that a church wants to call mission, including evangelism, of course, but with no integration. Mission just becomes like a bag of marbles. You know, you pick and choose whatever color suits you. And so, yeah, if evangelism is your thing, fine, you know, do that, but maybe it's not. So a church, just as a whole package, a miscellaneous smorgasbord of activities in which evangelism is just one option among many other things that the church might choose to do or not. And it seems to me that is equally misleading and actually, I would say, unbiblical. So these are false ideas, I think, of what is meant by holistic mission or integral mission. I prefer these days to speak about the centrality of the gospel and evangelism. I prefer that word centrality of evangelism, not because evangelism addresses the greatest human need, whatever that may be defined to be, and we get back in that same dilemma as before, but rather because it is in evangelism that we are connected to the centrality of the gospel itself as the essential biblical story of what God has done to save the world. It connects us to God. It connects us to that engine, as it were, of the dynamic story of salvation. So in mission, we may do a lot of things. There are a lot of legitimate things that Christians can do in their missional callings and vocations. But the integrating heart at the center of them all must be this God-centered, God-generated reality of the gospel itself. Not the gospel, as I said, conceived merely as a personal insurance plan, but the gospel as the declaration of the historical facts of the story of salvation. This great cosmic story of God's redemptive purpose for the whole of his creation. Because it is in evangelism that we tell that story. And it is from that story only that all the rest of our mission flows. So to engage in integral mission, you need the integration of the historical truth of the gospel in the Bible, the declaration of that through evangelism, and the embodiment of that in social and contextual engagement with society where we actually live.